Hey, what's up everyone? Lucas here. Sorry for the big delay on these videos. I know it's been, what, 3-4 weeks since I've last put out a video. I promise there's been lots of progress being made. I haven't forgot about GeoPix or you guys who are out there watching this video. The biggest reason I've held off on a video is just because the things I was working on were mostly bug fixes, optimizations, things that weren't really conducive to videos. And yeah, I wanted to wait till I had something more substantial to show you guys. And this is that week. So let's dive right into it and I'll show you what's going on. So I've got a scene here. First things first, you'll probably notice the UI looks a little bit different. I've been moving things around the attribute editor just to be a little more cohesive. Things are kind of grouped more nicely and things just make a little bit more sense. They're going to change a lot still, but they're moving in the right direction there. A few new buttons over here. I've been moving stuff around. Also not quite sure how all this is going to end up, but it's a growing, evolving UI layout. So first things first, let me show you kind of some of the stuff from several weeks ago. Not the most exciting stuff, but certainly interesting nonetheless. I create a cube. Before, and this is still here, you can select a cube, duplicate it, and you can move it. That's still there. However, now if you duplicate an object and you translate it, there's a new duplicate button to the next, or to the right of the other one, where if you click on that, it lets you duplicate with the spacing that you had from the last duplicate. This, obviously could serve a few pretty self-evident purposes. The thing that I use tools like this the most for is doing things like rafters on a ceiling or 2x4s. I've had several venues I've done some lights at for shows where I had these kind of 2x4s in the ceiling and I actually had to attach strips or lights to them. And if you're going to do preview or previs, or you want to map things out real specifically for some reason, you can use this tool to do that. Anything more complicated than that, obviously I recommend Maya, Blender, some 3D software that lets you really get in there and have control to measure stuff. But you can do it quite a bit with this, but it's it's there for for the people who don't have access to something better, and if you don't have a complicated scene, this is great. This is probably going to be just fine. So all right, so next thing is these flashy indicator lights at the bottom. You probably noticed them already. These are pretty self-explanatory. They're not really there to serve a purpose besides just to show you what you're pressing on. This might be useful if you're having issues or hotkey's not working or you're having unexpected results. Look down here, see if something's pressed that shouldn't be pressed. Sometimes things get stuck in Touch Designer and that's unfortunate. And this just gives you kind of a clear picture of what the software thinks is pressed, even if it's not pressed in real life. So alright, so another cool thing that we have, I'm going to zero these coordinates out, is I'm going to create a group too. So groups are these little objects you can parent stuff to. They're just transforms essentially. One thing I've added, and this is true for groups and true for every other object type that doesn't inherently have geometry attached to it, is now if you hold S, which is for snapping, you'll see that its origin has a marker. So you can snap objects to that. I had the group selected, not the geometry. So I can snap things to that, or as you saw, I can snap objects or groups to other objects. This is great if you have symmetry and you know that origin is an important position. Now you can actually use that in snapping arrangements, which is nice. Plenty of uses for that. This leads me into my next update. Over here in the outliner, you'll notice that things are now color-coded. I'm going to add a few other objects here. I'm going to explain these a little bit later. As you can see, everything's got their own color. This is going to play out in a pretty big way as the software grows. And in fact, it already is. You're going to see that later too when I talk about fixtures. Everything's got a color scheme, and that shows up in the viewport as well as in the outliner. So that's useful. Going to explain how these work together as well, but for now, just delete those. Alright, so something that that I haven't added in the software for a while. It was an easy thing, but it's one of those things that every software does. Most softwares do, and when you finally use a software that doesn't have it, it drives you nuts. And that is tabbing through fields. Yes, it's finally working. You probably didn't even know that wasn't working. It was driving me nuts, and it was just one of those things that, yeah, needed to be done. Maybe the software does it. It's pretty much expected, and if you don't have that, you do a lot of back and forth, and if you don't have a numpad, it gets even worse. So, anyways, we got that working. That works pretty nice. A couple other changes to UX. The gizmo, which it's working pretty well. There's a couple glitches and bugs with it, but it's tremendously better than it was a month ago. One of the improvements came from hiding the gizmo during certain modes. So when you have Alt and left, actually when you just have Alt pressed down, right? When you're doing viewport manipulation, it goes away. Also, when you hold S and you snap stuff, it goes away because you don't want that visible during those operations. It was actually causing some bugs to happen that were really hard to track down. I got lucky I was in the right place at the right time when this bug that happened like once a day, happened, and I was just staring at it when it happened in the back end, and that was great. And that was part of that problem. So, anyways, that's some of the more boring stuff. Let's dive into some of the more exciting things. Okay, maybe this isn't the most exciting thing to everyone, but I added a new primitive. It's plane. So that's wonderful. You can now create planes, and it's subdivided too, which the cube is not. I'm thinking about adding a subdivision for the cube, so that you have that middle pixel. Middle vertex. If you want to snap it to something, if I have this, I can snap it to that corner. Maybe that's useful. I think it is for generating patterns that need symmetry. But you may want this to be offset, and then you want to create something in the center of that. I guess you can do that with a group too. So maybe I'll take that subdivision out. I have no idea. But yeah, planes are now part of your palette. Okay. A few other sort of interesting things. Interesting to me, very, very good positive improvements, but things you probably didn't see from watching these videos. One of them was an optimization. Let's say I had, a bunch of cubes. Actually, it didn't have to be that many. Let's just say I had like 10, or however many this is. Yeah, it's 10. Previously, if I were to grab all of these cubes and group them, that would take about a minute, maybe 30, 45 seconds. That was insane. It was completely not great. And the reason why it was taking so long is because in the back end, every time you would move something through a different hierarchy or to a different parent, it actually deleted it from one place and it recreated it into another place. But since the data inside wasn't changing, it was basically the same data. Really, honestly, that was redundant. So what I did had a big impact on why I didn't upload a video in so long. I had to go back and kind of redo a significant portion of the back end to work with a different parenting structure. So before in Touch Designer, you can make a node inside a node inside a node, containers, and then from that you can extract the path of that container, right, where it is in the overall mix of things. And with this new system, you're not actually moving things into different containers when you parent them. You're actually just connecting them in different ways. So that means you don't have to delete and recreate them constantly, which is great, but that also meant I had to come up with a pretty substantial body of code to kind of abstract some of the more tedious loops and logic statements and stuff like that. So it took a while, and I got working, and things are a lot better in that department. Also, along with that, I've optimized just general scene transformations. You'll see a performance hit when you move stuff, and that's kind of inevitable, especially when you have a lot of objects selected. But it's gotten a lot better. So another big optimization. Another really important feature, it's actually a foundational part of kind of how things are going to move forwards with organizing data in your scene. It's another thing I took a while to get right, was ordering things in your outliner, ordering things in your scene. So best way to show you, I have cube 1, 2, and 3, as you can see they're here in alphanumerical order. Let's say you want cube 1 to be under cube 3, and the way you do that is by giving it a name that comes after 3, so I'll give it cube 4. As you can see, it jumps down here below 3. I can name cube 3 to cube 30. It jumps below, as you would expect it to. And this works within hierarchies, but hierarchies are still the main constraint. So, things will look as you'd expect them to, basically, with alphabetical ordering. So that's important because when we get into fixtures, which are basically the place, the object type that holds all of your LED data, you have to be able to tell GeoPix which fixture comes before which, right? Because when you plug them in physically, you have an order, and you have to have that same order, exist in the digital world for your patterns and your colors to match up. So the way that we're going to have that handled is by naming things in a alphabetically forwards way, if that makes sense. So, all right, let's get on with the fun stuff. All right, let me just import a couple things. I'll bring in our standard dude. Turn off his vertex snapping stuff. Let's move him back a little bit. By the way, you probably noticed, if you're very perceptive, that the shading looks a little bit different on this guy, on all geometry actually, and that's because I've begun the process of getting things set up with PBR, which is great. A lot of great shading things to deal with there. There's no textures on this; it's just a material, but it kind of has like a nice kind of glossy, rough glossy look to it with an environment light. This should just give us better looking materials in the future, and maybe even open up the door for texturing our objects, although I don't want to get too involved with that because this is not about texturing a 3D scene. We're building a 3D scene fundamentally. It's about pixel mapping, right? The geometry serves the purpose. It's not the end goal. But as previews and previs goes, I want GeoPix to be a good platform to build up a show or a concept and show somebody without needing to go off into too many different focuses and softwares and stuff like that. So this will kind of be this is the beginning of, I think, a big step or a big chunk of improvements to the visual quality of the viewport. So anyways, more on that in another video. Gonna go ahead and throw a few cubes in here. Let's make one more. I'm gonna turn on symmetry. It's on, it's already on, and gonna go ahead and just set up some random geometry here. Alright, we got that. Let's make another cube. Let's snap that up there, why not? Let's make a cylinder. We don't even need that, that's fine. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let's use a plane. Let's put that. Yeah, let's put that up there. Okay. Let me put it there. All right, cool. So, what's up with this geometry? Well, let's go ahead and make a fixture. A fixture is the thing that holds your LED data, and this will hopefully expand, if time permits, to also hold DMX fixture devices too, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. For now, we're just dealing with pixels. Good old RGB pixels. So we have several sections that popped up here when we created this device. I'm sorry, fixture. You'll notice that when it's deselected, those things disappear. So this attribute editor is becoming a context-based attribute editor. So things that show up are relevant to what you have selected. Honestly, these don't really feel like attributes so much as they do tools. This might move to another column or somewhere. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but that's still being worked on. Anyways, there's three sections. There's holes, there's generators, and there's pixels. There will likely be more categories here because this is a very important part. of the software, a lot happens here. But just to start with, let's kind of go backwards. Let's start in pixels. So if I enable pixel mode, I have this kind of weird collection of buttons here. Again, this is all going to change. It doesn't look too, what's the word? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now the way things are laid out, but we'll get that to a better place soon. Anyways, when you enable it, you'll notice that you can't select anything. You're pretty much, oh, you can parent stuff. That's interesting. I'll have to disable that too. But you can't select things. Basically, your mode is frozen into pixel mode. And as you saw a second ago, I added a pixel, and you can do that to anything in the scene. You can just click away. You can add pixels to any geometry. Doesn't care what geometry it is. You can rotate your view. You can get in here with some accuracy, and you can draw stuff out. Jump across gaps and do all of that. So this is kind of the raw edit mode, right? This is just you clicking, adding pixels to geometry. It's very uncontrolled, unconstrained. In the future, there's going to be some more information in the viewport that will tell you, how many pixels you have total, the length, stuff like that. But for right now, those things do not exist, and you just have a couple of these tools kind of in early beta, basically. Anyways, we can delete these pixels by hitting delete all. Can't delete them for some reason. Weird. Let's try this again. Okay, well, I've got a bug with my delete all. It does work. I think when I parented that object earlier, it caused a glitch. Let's go ahead and try this again. So let's add a few pixels, delete all. Yeah, it's not working. That's very strange. We're going to ignore that for now. I was working, but that's kind of the nature of these things. You saw how that works. That's pretty straightforward. Let's dive into hulls. Hulls are where the magic really happens. While you can add pixels manually to your objects, that's not really the way I want people to work in GeoPix. It's not really very fun. Clicking to build an array 500 times it's not why we use computers. We use computers to kind of automate and skip those kind of tedious tasks. So hulls are the best way to think of them are skeletons for your LED fixtures. So let me go ahead and just show you by clicking a few times in add delete mode. By the way, right click will also delete your last selected or placed point. We get this green line that if we deselect, it turns yellow, which by the way, yellow is the color of fixtures. So hull mode by itself is not anything, right? These are not LEDs by themselves, but you can turn them into LEDs, right? So if I jumped from add delete to select mode, I can select all, which is a button that kind of automates the selection, but you can go in here and you can manually select things. These hull markers, if you will, you currently can't move them. I'd like to eventually get to the point where you can move them around after the fact. I don't know. That's not high on my priority list, but I would like to get that done eventually. Once you have one or more selected, you're going to be presented with a number of options under generators. And if you use 0.9, you remember generators. You probably know where this is going. Generators are a set of parameters with a generate button that lets you create various LED shapes, right, that you don't have to sit there and click tediously. So right now I have two examples to show you that I got in by this video: pitch, strip by pitch, and strip by count. So these are pretty straightforward, right? If you have these 2 points selected, which we do, right, up here your options for this generator show up, and the only option, this is a simple one, is your pitch. I have 3.3 already typed in because that's just kind of like a default pitch I use for a lot of things. It's the same pitch in the 30 meter LED strips. It matches that pitch. That's nice. So based on what you have selected here, you have LEDs to generate, average pixel pitch, and total length. these things change based on what you have selected. So if you watch this data, if I select this third point, these things shift and change. So I think by the next video I'll have like a real-time preview of the LEDs as you change these settings. But right now you just have these, text numbers to kind of go off of, and you hit generate, and what you have basically that many pixels in a row, and they're evenly spaced out at 3.3 centimeter pitch. So this is one way to create strips if you have LED strips and you know the pitch already, and this will let you draw things out kind of with that in mind. However, that's not always the way you want to go about working. For example, let's say you have a 4-meter roll of 30 per meter strip. All right, that's 150 pixels exactly. You know that ahead of time, and when you draw this out in 3D, maybe you didn't measure out exactly 4 meters, right? So maybe when you select these 2 points, it's saying 145 pixels, and it's like, well, I really don't care if the mapping is perfect. I just want there to be the right number of pixels. Okay, well in that case, we have a better tool for you, and that is the one called strip by count. This is kind of the reverse of strip by pitch. You probably see where this is going. You type in a total number of LEDs, and you have a little spinning knob here and some plus and minus buttons. It's a little bit of a different UI. Let's give this 30. And so it tells you what the pitch is going to be, and it tells you the total length. So if I generate, you can see I've created LEDs along this segment, and there are less of them, and they're more spread out, and that matches the pitch that we saw up here. So that's kind of the new foundation of how LEDs are going to work in GeoPix 1.0. Hulls and generators are your two best friends when it comes to creating scenes. Once this starts to become a little more fleshed out, you're going to be able to really fly through scenes. So for example, in the future, I don't have this yet, but let's say I create fixture 2. I snap it to the center of this plane. I go into edit hull mode. Let's say I have nothing selected. There will be an option for nothing selected. It'll probably be like a grid or an array, right? Something that doesn't need 2 points but just 1 point. In that case, I could quickly create a 10 by 10 grid of LEDs, right? And it will be centered around this marker, and then I can move it. In this case, I don't have that function, so let's just draw a couple points. And then let's select all, and then let's go to pitch, let's generate. Alright, let's move on. Then let's grab another fixture. And by the way, I don't have to move the fixture. I can leave them all at 0, 0 if I wanted to, right? Because I can just go into hull mode. I can add, delete, and then I can select all, generate by pitch. There we go. So you can very quickly see how I'm mapping out a scene, right? You can see this wave of blue kind of going across from left to right. This is just sample content, by the way. It's not anything meaningful, but it just goes to show how quickly you can start mapping things out. This is a pretty drastically different way to work from the last form of the software. So I'm excited about this. I want to hear what you guys think and what thoughts you have on this. Ideas for improvement, critiques, criticisms, all of it. Please throw it my way. What else? What else? What else? I feel like I'm missing something. You can move this stuff after the fact as well. You have this little bounding box. It's nice. Shows you where things are located. One more thing to show you. I think I described this in a previous video, but I want to go and show you now that I have these objects that are now, you can create them now. So we have these 3 things here. We have fixtures, which I just showed you. We have signal chains. This is confusing, and I'm probably going to change the name of it. So a signal chain is a group, right? It's a group of fixtures. So let's go ahead and create a signal chain. And I'm going to drag each of these fixtures into a signal chain. All right. So a signal chain, another way to think of it is like, you know, let's say you have a pixelite, right? A pixelite 4. A pixelite 4 has 4 outputs. So an output may have a number of panels back to back, right? So the best way to think of this is a signal chain as a pin, a physical output on a pixel controller. So in the case of a pixelite 4, you would have 4 of these. So I'm going to go and create 4 just to show you, right? And then you would have a device, and as you guessed it, the device would be, you know, with a pixelite 4. And so with naming, we can actually name these pixelite 4, 1. Okay. Then we can go and parent these, right, to the pixelite 4. Okay. I'm going to delete these so you guys can see what's going on here a little easier. Obviously there's no geometry here, but forget about that for a moment. So we have a hierarchy here, and there's 3 levels to it, right? This is fundamental to how things are going to be set up, right? You don't have a settings page where you go and configure your things. There are going to be settings, but they're going to be in the attribute editor here on the right. And when you have device selected, you're going to have connection, communication settings. When you have signal chain selected, if there's going to be any settings for these, they're going to see them on the right. And like fixtures, as you've already seen, there's going to be options associated with that. Although these are more like tools, so I might move these. Anyways, this is the setup your stuff's going to have to be in. So just to kind of show you, maybe I have 1 fixture under signal chain 2. Maybe I have 1 under 3. Actually, what if I have 2? Maybe I'll have 2 back to back. Maybe these are like table LEDs 1. Table LEDs 2. Then this might be ceiling strip 1. Maybe this is floor strip 1, floor strip 2, and floor strip 3. So I'm just kind of going through the motions here to show you. Again, it doesn't matter what these are called, but you have to give it a number, and it's good to name things so that you can more or less know kind of what you're dealing with. Alright, just discovered another bug. It's the beauty of doing videos and putting scenes together in real time. My LEDs disappeared, and I think that's because they're parented too deeply. Easy fix, but not an issue for right now. So, pixelite 4, 4 outputs, and each of those outputs has a number of you know, fixtures attached to it. And this is the format for how a device should be laid out. So as you can imagine, this outliner is going to get pretty long in the future. You know, when you have 15 fixtures under 1 signal chain and you have 16 signal chains, you can imagine that's going to get pretty long. So, you know, there'll be a scroll bar and you can go through and collapse different rows when you don't need to see them, kind of like you can with functions in Notepad++ and stuff like that. So yeah, well that's pretty much it. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I know this was a longer one, and next video will either be in 1 or 2 weeks, and I'll have plenty of new cool stuff to show you then, right? So alright, thanks for watching. Take it easy.